Welcome to the Rustic Garden. Today I want to talk about watering for your container garden, specifically the 5-gallon container. And I want to talk about principles. It's really important. Number one, never let your container garden dry out completely. If it does, it's going to ruin the root system and you're going to have a lot of problems. And one of the problems people get often with tomatoes is a disease called blossom end rot. Well, it's really a physiological condition, and it happens for two reasons. One, sometimes you don't have enough calcium, but more realistically it's due to a watering issue where your plant actually dries out in the containers, the root systems get damaged and they can't pull in the calcium. So I'm going to talk to you about how do you address that, how do you take care of that. So using a 5-gallon bucket, in past videos I've talked about putting holes in the bottom. Well, that'll let all the extra water drain out. For this year I'm talking about coming up about 1 inch, putting a hole in it. I'm not going to do it in this video because I'm using this bucket for something else. And that would be your drainage hole. It's going to create sort of a reservoir or a little bit of reserve where extra water sits in here. Now, the key is I'm in Maryland Zone 7, and we all garden in different zones. So if you're in a place like Arizona where it gets really hot, you may want to raise this up to 2 inches so that you have a greater water reserve. So it's going to vary based on the zone that you're in, and you're really thinking about watering your plants when you're at the highest heat of summer. You can't let these dry out, and in some days they can dry out, within 24 hours. So if you're able to water your garden every day, the first thing you would do again is come up about 1 inch, put a hole in here. That's going to be your reserve, and just fill it with a container mix. You can buy it. I showed you how to make it. I'll put a link to that. That has at least 50% organic matter. This is going to hold water. And if you're able to, water it every day, every 24 hours, every 36 hours, a hole and this mix is perfect. Now, if you're in an area or you're busy and you work full-time like I do, you may not be able to water it every day, or you might have to go 48 hours or a little bit longer. One trick is to use shredded hardwood. This is like a sponge, and a lot of people say, oh, you can't put wood in your containers or your garden or it's going to pull out nitrogen. That's true, but not in the way that we're going to use it. We're going to use this really for its ability to retain water. And what you would do, again, is you put the hole in there, and then we would just fill this up to the level of the hole. And the reason we're doing that is because this wood, the shredded hardwood, I recommend using shredded hardwood, is going to retain water almost like a sponge. And this is going to give you that little extra protection in case you're not able to water regularly. And that's all you're going to do, is you're going to put the wood chips in the bottom. Now, when wood decays, it pulls nitrogen out of the surrounding area for plants. But your wood chips are down here, your soil is up here, your fertilizers are up here, so the wood being down here is not going to impact your plant getting nitrogen or other, fertilizers. The other thing that will happen is if you're using fish fertilizer or any kind of chemical fertilizer, it's going to wash down and it's going to sit with the wood chips, and you're also going to have a supply of fertilizer and nitrogen down there. But this would be the second way to set up your container system. So this is 2 ways to set up your 5-gallon containers, and you would do the same principle for larger containers. And again, you would come up one, and actually let me just put the hole in it. You're going to just put the knife in, give it a spin. You want the hole to be about that big. That's going to be your drainage. And again, if you're in hotter zones, raise the hole up a little bit. But if you can water, every day, you just need your 50% organic matter, water retaining container mix. And if you need a little more protection because you can't water every day, put the wood chips down at the bottom. Now, let me dump these out real quick. Now you get to other systems that you might see being advertised in different places, and it's usually a plastic insert that goes down in here. It doesn't have a bottom, and what it does is it creates a space down here where we had the wood chips. It just creates sort of a dome, and it prevents the soil from getting in, and it just lets this fill up with water under here, so you have more water sitting down there, and there's usually a tube like this PVC cut in here, and it comes up. They're perfectly fine, they work. I just don't want you to spend a lot of money for them. If you're spending more than $4 for that insert, get out of here. $4 for that insert, then you're spending too much. And this is why. In the next video, I'm not going to do it now based on time and I need to create this. You can buy a 1-gallon container of water. This is 98 cents. It's food safe plastic. And all you would do is really drop this down here. Now it looks a little bit crazy, But you would drop this down here. You can cut this whole thing of tubing is $8.99. You would cut the tubing to the length that it comes up to about here on your bucket. Hold it right here, draw a circle around it, cut it out, and then you just insert the plastic. And then you just cut slits. Some of the water's going to come out like this. And you do that all the way around, and your root systems will work its way into this, and it's a water reserve. It's a true container that holds the extra water. When we have the wood chips in here, the wood chips themselves displace the water, so it's less water. But this is just going to be one way that you can really create something kind of cool. I just spilled water down my leg. Where you will have a true reserve of water. And I think you're going to like it, so please subscribe and come back and check out that video. I'm going to do it this week. Now, you can get something that's 2.5 gallons. This was only $2.59, and it would be the same design. It can go into bigger containers. You would cut out the section of the PVC so that it comes up above here, and let's see if I can do this. You just mark it onto here, draw a circle around here, cut the hole a little bit tighter than this tube, drop it in, and you have a water reserve. Now with this system, I'm going to show you how to put a cut in here, put in a piece of cloth or a piece of synthetic that will pull the water out and wick it into your container. So there's a lot of ways that you can go about creating a watering system for your 5-gallon buckets, for your bigger containers, where you can save a lot of money. And I hope this gives you an idea of what you can do. Base it on the high heat of your summers. If you can get out and water every day, then you don't need anything fancy. If you can't water every day, or you're in a zone where you actually water, and then by the end of the afternoon while you're at work, the container's dried out, you're going to need to do something with the wood chips down here. You're going to need to do something with a container like this, where I'll show you how to do that. Or you're going to need something bigger in a bigger container just like this. Hope this gives you some ideas of what you can do to create something and not spend a lot of money. Again, the systems that you buy that sit in the bottom of your bucket are really nothing different than a water container like this with the bottom cut out. It prevents the soil from falling in, creates a space where water can come in, and the water can only go as high as the drainage hole in your system. So if gallon container comes up to here, but your drainage hole is down here, all you're going to have is a gap of air right here. So you're setting up the plastic dome to meet where your water drains out of your container. Last thought, people say, well, if you have water in your container, your plant's going to rot. That's not true. If you have water sitting in your container up to here, it's going to be a problem. But if you have water sitting down at this level, especially with a plant like tomatoes, and this is what I recommend it for, that tomato is going to use that water. That water is going to get wicked up. It's not going to sit down there for too long. And when you start a small tomato up here, the root systems haven't even really worked their way down here. Plus they have all the extra roots over here that if anything happened to the root down here, it's going to be okay. I know this is a lot of information, but the greatest failure for people with container gardens is failing to water them regularly. Please check out my blog at www.therusticgarden.blogspot.com, and also check out my YouTube videos. Thanks.